Hello and welcome to the Wednesday night modeling stream, or daytime, or nighttime, or midday, or wherever you're at. I'm Bryan Bentley. I'll be your streamer for tonight. Thank you so much for coming and visiting me. I'm the department head of modeling here at CG Spectrum. For all your modeling needs, go to cgspectrum.com/3D-modeling. So, familiar faces, new program, or actually going back to Maya today. So, I did some work between the streams this time. I actually had some time to sit down and center myself, and I'm really liking where Kortex at right now. So if you guys are just now tuning in, haven't been watching it for the last couple weeks, or actually the last couple months, I've been working on this robot for a good long time, and it's nearing the end. I'm really happy with how it turned out. So one of the biggest things I did between the streams on this guy is I did two big things. One, I went back into Maya and redid the for this set here. It was just really bad. Like, this part needed a lot of work, and it was like this teeny tiny thing down here. So I went back in, and that's the great thing about Substance Painter. And even in Mari, you can do this as well. I went back in and went back to Maya, moved my UVs around, made sure everything was nice and packed together. So a couple things I did. The major thing I did is I made this big red piece. I gave that a lot more space to move around, or I gave it a lot more texture density. The other thing is I grouped all of these bolts together, or actually I grouped them in two spots. So these two bolts, they're just all sitting directly on top of one another. So they're such a small detail, they really don't need that much space on their own. So that's that. And the way you re-import this stuff, and this is like not very well documented, or I haven't really seen you how to do this like very late in the game. You can change a lot of stuff, and this is the other reason why I work the way I do, especially with hard surface stuff, is that when I brought this back in, when I brought this new model back in, really the only thing I had to move were these two decals, because they were like up here before, so I just had to move them in UV space over here. So my brush strokes stayed the same, and my projection mapping stayed the same. So this guy stayed the same, this guy stayed the same, and yeah, everything just kind of stays in place. So as long as you don't move things in world space. Now, if I would have moved this guy back or forward, or like changed the shape of this thing, I would have been in trouble. But I was just making a UV change, so the only thing that got affected were my UV projections. So it was relatively fast, but it probably took me about an hour to do the whole thing, to rebuild everything. The other thing you need to do is you need to rebake your mesh maps. So when you go into texture settings, you need to go to rebake all these maps, because all this is moved. But that's trivial. I mean, it took like 10 minutes. It's a small price to pay to be able to go in and completely change your UVs at any time. And the great thing is, as well, is Substance Painter now has an auto UV feature. So you could be possibly in a pipeline where your modeler just finishes the model, right? It's in like kind of like this world space position. Doesn't even have to be completely done. They could give you this temp model. Doesn't even have UVs. You can do these temp UVs. You can do all this work, right? And then once your modeler is done with the UVs, they can give you that new model, and then you can rebake everything into those UVs. So you can have this very nice parallel workflow, which is pretty cool. It's really clever. I know you've been able to do this in Mari for a very long time, but Substance Painter is a new hotness. So there we go. So with this newfound area, I put a little bit of glowing, like this little glowing strip on the head here. And I basically it's the same idea as what I did on the legs and on the chest. The other thing, big thing I did, I went back into Houdini and fixed up the UVs for my little brain wires here. So now they have a consistent UV that goes from 0 to 1 here. So if I go and look at, this, where's my brain? Where is my brain? So yeah, so we look at this. So now these guys have this this nice consistent UV value from here to here. which is really nice. So it gives it like it before it was like this weird banding that was happening. Now I feel like this feels really really nice. Like it's like it feels like a hot wire. So I just made like a little cooler spot at the end. So I figured it was like it's really really hot, and as it travels down this wire, it kind of cools off a little bit. But as it pops out this other end, it's still pretty hot. And the other thing you might notice is my brain. I did this brain was actually pretty easy to do because I just went online and typed in gore material PBR. Just typed in gore PBR, and it's one of those rare occasions that you get exactly what you're looking for. Like this is one of the very rare occasions where like it just I was like, well, that's my brain material. So I downloaded that. So if I go to my projects images, I should have. Actually, I think I put it just into my straight up materials. So let's go look at this. I can't remember where I put it, but so for this, what I did is I just made a material layer. So if I look at this brain base here, so it's just it's a base color, a height map, a roughness, and a normal, and it's not metallic. So I just took those images. They were repeating images, which is awesome. So I just put those in and took my scale up, so I can scale up or down like that. And that was it. That's pretty much it. I did a little AO pass here that just makes these crevices a little bit darker. So if we look at this, right? So I just took the grayscale, the texture gore. I just took the ambient occlusion and threw a levels on it to tighten up the inside of this, and I just used that as a mask for this color. So this AO just kind of makes it like a little bit more bloody, I guess you could call it. If I wanted to break this up even more, you can always break stuff up more. I could add a noise on top of this. So I could say, once again, and this is a danger of Substance Painter. You can just keep going and going and going and going forever. So I could do, so let's see, let's do add fill, and then I could just put a noise on top of that. So let's go procedurals, and we'll do black and white spots. So we can just drop that on there. Right, and those black and white spots, I can say instead of normal, I can say like multiply. So it just breaks up. Actually, I kind of like that. I like that a lot. Kind of breaks up that pattern a little bit, which is nice. And then there's black and white spots. I don't want this. I can see my seam here, so I'm going to take that and put that to triplanar, and there we go. So yeah, actually I like that. Like it was. I feel like that coming back to this. It's always good to like put down your work and then come back to it. I feel like before, without that, it was a little bit too strong. Now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, and I can even like if I don't want it to be knock out so much stuff, I can pull this down. Yeah, a little bit more subtle. So this is pretty gross, but it worked really well. Like I can't fault it. So it's good. So that's everything. The other really small thing I did is I felt like these blue, or not blue, these yellow parts were just really, really flat and very plain. So I just added a very, very light kind of hexagon, like worn off pattern. And once again, it's the same thing that I do over and over again. So I think I put that in, I put that in my yellow layer. So let's go back to 1. And in my yellow here, it's my yellow. Yeah. So there's my yellow. So there's my height pattern. And there's that's the mask for it. So this yellow kind of picks up this yellow and just kind of raises it up and makes it a little bit darker. Yeah, that's it. So I think I'm going to put this down for a minute. So what I want to focus on today is, if you've read the title, I want to focus on rigging a little bit today. And we're going to talk about rigging. We're going to talk about some tools that I use to make my life a little bit better, a little bit easier. I talked about advanced skeleton last time, and I think I'm going to run with that. I think I'm going to try to rig this guy with advanced skeleton. And this is the main reason that I went back in and I straightened these arms. So I just kind of rebuilt this kind of rubber piece so that it was just nice and straight, and that'll become apparent later. Because what I want, let's see if I can get my Epic pen to work here. Let's see, can I draw? I can't draw on this screen for some reason. I'll have to fix that later. So what I want, I think, is actually, you know what? I'm just gonna jump over to Maya and get started on this. So the thing is that this is gonna be my clavicle. This is gonna be my upper arm, and like I would like my elbow to start here, but this whole bit is not mechanically sound. Like it's not. It doesn't move properly at all. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna start my elbow down here, and then this thing is gonna kind of flop around and swing back and forth. So that's the idea behind that. Okay. All right. So that's the texturing update. So let's pop back over to. Sorry, I got 2 instances of substance. All right. So here's my Maya. So we're way back. I went way back, and I did some work on this guy. So we need to do a little bit of work on this guy to get him ready for rigging. So I have these pivots in here. So if I turn my joints on, now my joints are really small. So the other thing I need to do is I don't need these disco colors anymore. So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna fix our joint display up, and then we're gonna get rid of these disco colors. And eventually I'm gonna bring all this stuff together into a final piece, whether I'm going to render it in Arnold or possibly Unreal. I keep saying this and I keep pushing it off. So just like you guys, I am nervous to try new things, just like anybody else. But I need to get there. But I love rigging, and it's like this dark art that everybody's afraid of, and they're like, "Oh no, I don't want to rig." It's not that bad, especially when you're doing something abstract like this. Okay, so let's take care of our joints. So these are our leg joints. So if we remember, I built this guy super tiny. He was like this big. So now he's about 3 feet tall. So he's about like that tall. So the reason I had to make my joints so small is because he was really tiny. So now I can put my joints back to 1, and so those are still pretty small. So the other thing that I can do is go to display, animation, and I can go to joint size. Now these two values will multiply against each other, so that's why they were so small. It was like 0.006 times 0.02. So if I put this back to 1, because he's the correct size, now these joints kind of make sense. So if I do that, so these joints make sense. So this is another way that I use to check, and just before I do anything, I set my joint radius to 1, and I set my joint scale to 1, and I start drawing joints. And if they're huge, then I know my character is way too small. Or if they're like teeny tiny, like those little. It's good to see you, Gene Michael. It says, I'm really afraid of rigging. Let me hear what you have to say about that. Most people are. Like, I'm a freak. I love rigging. I really enjoy it, because without rigging, like, you can't really pose your character. It's just a statue. So you either have to, use like crazy deformers, and then you can't undo that pose. So rigging is like this crucial step that everybody's afraid of. And unfortunately, because it's not sexy, and it's not lighting, and it's not explosions, and it's not fluid simulations, and it doesn't get a lot of love, because it's just this is invisible art. So, but the good thing about that is rigging hasn't really changed in the last 10 years, 20 years. Now, Houdini is changing this with KinEffects, which I am super, super excited about. I'm hoping to do a stream on that soon. Hopefully, so stay tuned for that. So for the next project I work on, I think I'm going to pick up one of my zombie projects and try to finish her up. So it's either going to be a winged kind of Valkyrie character or this luchador after I finish this guy. So stay. Okay, so I painstakingly put these made these joints like a long time ago so that this rotates exactly through this axis. So that's why I kept that stuff around mainly. So yeah, so that's that. Now I turned on default material, so I still have all my other materials here. So I'm going to get rid of all those. So I'm going to go and let's hide my pivots for now. And I'm just going to select everything here. And I'm going to say right click and I'm going to do assign favorite material. And I'm going to do standard surface. Now, this is not the AI standard surface. This is Maya's standard surface. And they were really sneaky about this. They were really, really sneaky about this when they, I don't know why, but they, like no one's talked about this. So there's a Lambert and there's a standard surface. So the standard surface, remember, standard surface, not AI standard surface, because those are two different things. The standard surface is Maya's version of a Maya's attempt at a physically plausible material. So instead of the Lambert, if I go over to Lambert here, where we have color, transparency, incandescence, and then in my specularity, where is it? Oh, Lambert doesn't even have specularity, sorry. In my blend, so I have blend, I have color, transparency, all this stuff that we've all seen that no one really uses anymore. We have a physically based setup now. So we have weight, we have color, we have diffuse roughness, we have metalness. So if you want to just do something super, super simple, you can grab this, and I'm pretty sure Arnold will read it. But in general, if you're going to use Arnold, use AI standard surface. The thing about this is Maya knows this. Maya owns this shader, so it'll respond in your viewport. So if you're just trying to do viewport stuff and try to make your model look pretty for your animator, and you're going to render in something else, which is what I'm going to do, use the standard surface. Okay, so I need to go and get rid of all those extra shaders. So let's change this back to shader value. So I'm just going to say edit, delete unused nodes. So we should see all those go away, and I'm just left with this standard surface. Actually, I have two standard surfaces here. So let's get rid of that one. This might be the default standard surface, so I don't think I want to use that one. I'm going to say favorite material, standard surface. Good. So I'll call this Kortex space. Kortex shading group. All right. So now this guy's pretty much ready for rigging. So I'm going to say File, Save As. And I think I already had one in here that I was working on, but I like this one better. So Kortex Rig, Save As. Yes. All right, so I got my pivots that I can snap to, and I have my shader and the guy's correct size. So let's start with some rigging. So I use Advanced Skeleton. It's free for students and learning. So I'm going to press this little 5 to initialize it. And it looks super scary when it first starts, but it's not. It's all broken down pretty nicely. So I'm going to start with the body, and I'm not even going to do build yet. So it basically starts from the top to the bottom. Now, there's this pre-section that I'm not going to use. But if you have, like, if you're getting a model online from offline, or you're getting it from, like, your friend who just models and doesn't know how to rig, use the pre-section. So it'll clean your model, it'll check for symmetry, which I don't really need to do. It'll create a rig file, it does all this stuff for you. So that's good. But what I want is I want to start with a fit skeleton. So the thing about, sorry, my dog's barking. The thing about Advanced Skeleton is it has two parts. It has a fit skeleton, and actually it has three parts. as a fit skeleton, a motion system, and a deformation system, and they're all kind of connected through constraints and script, which you generally don't have to worry about because it's a pretty solid system. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import a standard biped. So I'm going to say import. So that's my standard biped right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fit skeleton. I'm going to take this root and a Kortex for now. I'm going to show my pivots. So I'm going to take this root and I'm going to snap it to the root here. And I'm going to snap this guy to my... Actually, what I'll do is I'll just do match transformation. So I'll say match U to U. I'll say modify. Match all transformations. Okay. I'll do the same thing for this. I'll match U to U. Press G. Oh, sorry, other way around. Match U to U. Press G. And then I want to take match U to U. Press G. Actually, this one I might just be able to joint snap. Let's go on. F8, F8, F8. There we go. So I'm just going to take this guy and snap him. So I'm going to hold down V and just snap that down on the bottom. So what I want to do with this guy here, so like this is my foot. So this is, all these are a little bit big. So what I'll do with these is, so let's see where, there is a, so I can change my joint size here. So this is a nice little shortcut for everything. So if we look at this, this is my toe. This is my, the big toe here, which is on the inside, and my pinky toe. So this is going to control how my character rolls his foot, and this is the end of the foot. And this is the heel here. So I need to bring back my, here. So I'm going to come in, and I'm going to grab my heel. I'm going to put that somewhere here. Because as he lifts his foot, it's going to roll over this sock type thing. Make sure it's pretty much in the right spot. And then for this, like this isn't actually my toe. Like I was just using that for this. Like this is going to be the ball of my toe, and then the end here is going to be all the way over here. So let's do that. And I can dive down into this if I want to. There's my ankle. And these are my toes. So I'm going to snap to those. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Kortex. I'm going to put him on a layer. I'm going to call this Geon. And I'm going to set that to reference. So I can't accidentally select this. Okay, so my toes, I'm going to put those there. Hold down V and just snap that to that end there. Does that still snap into? Yeah, yeah. And then this guy, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll just pull this all straight forward. Now, ideally, I would like these to be completely straight, but there is a tool that will allow me to make this, to work out these orientations. And I may have to come back in. I'm doing these really sloppily, so I'll probably have to come back in and do this. But this is the great thing about the advanced skeleton is you can flop back and forth between your you can flop back and forth between your fit skeleton and your rig skeleton. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn on, let's see, snap to center. Right. So what I can do is I can turn on snap to center, or I can turn this on here. It's doing the same thing. So what this is going to do is it's going to project to the center, or it should project to the center of my geometry. Maybe not when it's referenced. Yeah, so you can have it referenced like that. Okay. All right. So now I need to figure out my other side. So I'm going to turn this off. So my other side here is my big toe. So my big toe is going to go here because that's kind of like the whole extent. And I think my pinky is going to go over here. So I'm going to take my big toe, put it over here. I'll take my pinky, I'll put it over there. So this triangle is going to determine my plane of rotation for my foot. So I'm going to hold down V, and I'm just going to snap to here. And I'm going to snap to here. Now this I've never rigged this guy before, and rigging is, just like anything else, it's a process of trial and error. So I'm thinking this will work, but I'm not really sure, and that's okay. So I'm going to change this guy to world instead of object. So right now I just kind of want to be working in the world. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's all right. Okay. So yes. So let's hide this guy now. Or no, I still need my pivots. I want to hide Kortex. So I'm gonna put that back to. Let's make that gray. We'll hide that. All right. So I still have my pivots in here. I want to select my locators here. I'm gonna go down, press down. Yeah, I got a new camera angle. I got a new screen. So now instead of my my camera being on top of my laptop over here, it's on top of my new screen over here, and I got a new big fill light for over here. You're very, very astute, very astute. So I'm gonna put these back to 1 so I can actually see them. It looks like this weird little something. I don't know. Okay, so let's bring this back. So the weird thing about this guy is he really doesn't have a a chest per se. He's just a ball. So there's my root joint here. So let's hide these joints. There's my root joint here. There's my spine, and then my chest is going to be here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take the spine. I'm just going to kind of put it directly in the center here. I may even move my root joint forward because he feels like he's a little bit too far back. So one thing you can do with this is you don't have to keep this hierarchy intact. So I could unparent my this guy, the hip, and move the spine forward. Or there's another option where you can take and you can say, with your tool options for your move, you can say preserve children. Now this is really dangerous. So if you're going to do this, so it's basically I'm just moving this and it's leaving all the children where they are. Make sure you turn it off once you're done with it. So that's kind of new. So I like the older way of just unparent, shift P, and then move this together, move this to where I want it to be, and I'll reparent it. So I want it to be pretty much in the center of the legs there and there. So I can just child, parent, put that back where it's supposed to be. Rigging, if you want to do animation, rigging is definitely necessary. Now, if you're an animator, you don't have to know how to rig. There are tons of pre-rigs out there. But I will say this, if you know how to rig, you can get a job really, really quickly. Very, very quickly, because it's this weird dark art and no one wants to do it, and that's kind of how you make money, is you do stuff that that no one else wants to do. Okay, so here's my chest. I'm going to leave that chest there, actually. Put this here. Yeah, I'll put my chest there. My neck is going to go like right at the top of this collar thing here. And then my head is going to go right there. Yeah. So I want my head to kind of rotate from the center of this tube, so that works. Generally, if this was a more humanoid character, I would cheat the neck to the back, because this is where your head doesn't rotate from here. It rotates from the back of your skull, like that. But this is a robot, so he's pretty much centered everywhere. And then this guy is just pretty much just a placeholder, so I'm just going to put that all the way to the top, just so if I'm looking at the skeleton, I can tell. If I'm not looking at the geometry and I'm just looking at the skeleton, I can tell how tall this guy's supposed to be. Okay, the other thing I want to do is I'm going to take my jaw, and I actually want to place this pretty effectively. So I'm going to go into my right view, zoom out, And I think I just want to show, let's see, which UDIM is that? So I still have my UDIMs all broken up. Yeah, so 001. So let's hide the rest of these so I can see where my jaw needs to go. So my jaw, I want to rotate from this guy. So like I want this whole thing to kind of hinge downward. Everything's complex until until you figure it out. I always say there really are no complex things, right? The most complex things are they're just a collection of simple things, right? A car is very complex until you start to kind of break it down and look at it. Now this guy he's got these kind of eyes. Now this is going to be a traditional kind of eye look at thing. So I'm not really sure how I want to do this, but I definitely don't need to aim. Like his eyes aren't gonna like do this per se. So I don't really need the traditional eye setup, but I still want this joint. So we'll get into attributes here in a second. So what I'm gonna do, let's bring this back. And I think I'm just gonna snap, I'm just gonna come down V and I'll snap this just to this vertex right here. Maybe pull it back just a little bit. So it's at the back of the eyeball. Okay. He's got this teeny tiny little arm here. So let's unhide this stuff. Okay. So this is basically my clavicle. So this joint will be this joint. This joint will be that joint. This guy will be way down here, and then the hand will go way, way, way down at the bottom here. And then I'll deal with the claw here in a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's find that arm and hide everything else. Yeah, UDIM 20. All right. So what I want to do is I want to find the center of this guy. So the way I modeled it, I kind of did this on purpose. Is I have these center lines here. So I have a center line here and I have a center line here. So between those two, I can pretty much get those centers. So a quick trick to find the center of something. So if I just double click on this, I get the loop. I can go to my rigging tab. I can say, where is it? Deform, and I can say cluster. So that cluster is going to be in the center of this. And since I know this is a perfect circle, that's going to go in the center of that guy. So I can do the same thing here. Right, so bring everything back. And I can do the same thing as I did before. So I can say match you to you. So this time I'm just going to do transformation. So let's do modify, match transformations, match transformations. That guy goes there. I'm going to say match you to you. Do the same thing here. Boom. So there is my there's my clavicle. So as that rotates around, this guy will probably be skinned to the chest, and then this thing will rotate around inside of this socket. Right. So next is I need to get this guy down here. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to hide this real quick and grab this vertex. Say create cluster. Actually, for this, I can probably just vert snap this down here. Now, if anybody's watching this who actually knows how to rig, you're probably cringing. You're like, oh my God, you're not paying attention to, you're a beginner at rigging. How should I start? Find a character online and start watching. There's a go-to, actually, you know what? The best rigging stuff, the best rigging resource I've ever had is way. I was like probably like maybe like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. If you can find it, it's called Jason Slifer's animator friendly rigging. And that's Jason Slifer's animation rigging. It is amazing. To this day, it is the rigging Bible. It is the best set of rigging instructions ever. Like it changed my life. It actually got me to be where I am now. So yeah, check it out. The other ones there's on the Maya Learning channel. There's a full character rigging playlist. So yeah, there's lots of resources out there. So I have this tiny little hand here. So I'm gonna bring back my boop, boop. Bring back my hose, and I'm gonna do that trick again. So I'm going to say deform, cluster. Take this and move it down here. Hold down V. And I'll go there. Okay. Now, for my claw, I really don't have a lot. I just want to, I think maybe I'll just do just 2 fingers. So I don't really need, I'll just do my index and my middle. So basically I'll be doing like that. So I can get rid of the rest of this stuff. So I can do, it's kind of hard to see sometimes. So I can delete that and I can delete this little cup here. And so one trick that I usually do, if I just want to globally change the size of my joints, I'll just take my translate X. If they're built correctly, I can just pull this out, and they should all translate outwards. Select hierarchy, translate X. Yeah, you can just push that out. So because they're all moving based on their parent. Select hierarchy. So now I have my little claw here that I can position. So let's do that. Let's hide our. Find my claw. Where's my claw? There we go. There's the claw. So I have. Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 joints. So I'll put 1 here. That's 1 here. That one's going to go there. That one's going to go there. That one's going to go there. No, okay. So I'm going to isolate these guys. Isolate. There we go. And I'm going to do that trick again. So I know I want 1 joint that's going to be here. So I'll do deform cluster. And I'll get rid of these clusters eventually. Cluster. And then I want 1 at, so let's do about here. And so that's 1, 2, let's bring back. Yeah, so I can build these based on the rest of the stuff. So say match you to you, yeah, and we'll say modify match transformations, match translation. Okay. So now this one I want to actually be a little careful with. Okay, so this one, I'm going to start to rotate this into place. The next one, I'll rotate in place like this. And this one, I'll rotate. And so the same thing, I can push this out along that vector of the parent. Ooh, I said the V word, so scary. Yeah, that should do it. That should do it. It should be give me just enough like kind of leeway to like kind of clamp this down. So I'll do the same thing over here. So I'll say, let's do. So match U to U. Modify. Transformation. Make sure these guys are zeroed out. Yep. And I'll do the same thing. So I want to make sure that, yeah, my Z is facing forward. So I kind of want these to be the same length. So let's do 1.5. 2. So this guy, maybe 1.5. And this will be 2. And this one is, let's see, make this a 2 as well. -50. I'm just going to round these out. -40. B and 40. Yeah, so I should get like a little bit of a little clamping action there. And oh, I need to move my wrist. Move my wrist here. Actually, my wrist is fine because that's gonna rotate this whole thing here. So that works. It looks weird, but it'll work. At least I think it will. We'll find out. Like I said, this is a new thing. This is a new thing. Okay. Right. So those are my clamps, and let's bring back the rest of this. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to say File, Increment and Save. So this is now Kortex Rig 01. And what else do I need before I build this? Okay, so that's good, right? So that's my fit skeleton, right? So this is actually going to be my rig. So let's go ahead and get rid of these clusters. And let's hide my pivots because I don't want those to get in the way. Okay, so let's go to build and I'm just going to do build advanced skeleton and see what I get. So build advanced skeleton. It's going to go through and it's going to look at all these positions, it's going to mirror everything over, it's going to build me a bunch of controls. Cool, right, so it made my controls, but they are tiny, so I can work on that later. But for now, what I have is this. So let's look at let's set this back to reference. There we go. So there's my knee, and in my foot now. This is generally when I check because his feet are very, very strange. So I have this roll, so I can roll his foot forward. So I can, like if I'm going to do a walk, roll it backwards. That's looking pretty good. I'm liking the way that feels. I can do a rocking action, which is left to right. So that's feeling pretty good. And then I can control stretchy and fatness and volume and all that stuff. So that's working pretty well. All right, so let's work on our controllers right now because they're all really, really small and they're all like kind of tucked away inside of his body. So let's say control curves, and we can do scale. So let's scale these up a fair bit. Let's say 5. Let's say scale. Now, that is way too big. So let's let me do sets. Let's control sets. There we go. So this is the other cool thing. It makes these sets for you. So this is your deformation, all your deformation joints, and all your control curves, which is really, really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate. See if it'll let me isolate just this. Cool. Actually, even then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's unisolate that. I'm going to say show none. Say show CV curves. Grab all these and say scale those up by 5. So maybe that's a little bit too big. Show. Polygons. Actually, no. Most of these are pretty good the way they are. Yeah, so I can see those. I can see these guys. I can see those. So maybe my pluses need to be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. So that's like I don't know why my UI is so cramped here. Let's see if we can make some money. Yeah, that doesn't work. Anyways, so let's put this to 2 and see what that does. Oh, that's scaling. So let's say 0.1. Oh, too small. 2. So I can keep scaling this up or down. Actually, I kind of like these where they are. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move these back. So these are my IK controls. So I'm going to push those back out of the way. So once again, I'm going to say control vertex. Should be able to grab that. Actually, I'm going to press F8 to get to my control object mode. F8. My control vertices show. Nerve CVs. Show all. Don't know why I can't see my CVs on these. Control vertex. There we go. There they are. Okay. Grab these guys. Control vertex. Yeah, there we go. Show. None. Show. Nerves, curves. Show. There we go. Just going to select these, show all, and just pull these back. So like back out of the way. Okay, so my hands and my feet are humongous, so I'll take those and make those a little bit smaller as well. And the cool thing about this system is the advanced skeleton, it's keeping track of all this as I'm doing it. So even if I rebuild my skeleton, it's still going to remember this to an extent. So let's do 0.9. So scale it down. We'll just keep scaling it down by a 1/10 until it gets about the size that I want it. Just keep scaling this down. Yeah, that's nice. And then I'll scale these. I want to scale up, so I'm going to say 1.1. So I'll start scaling them up by a little bit each time. Now, because my feet are such a weird shape, I believe I can actually custom customize the stuff. So I can say control vertex. Actually, I'm gonna press down to get to my shape first. Then I'll do control vertex. And what I can do with this is I can start to actually just like sculpt this. So objects. So I'm just gonna grab this, move it there. I'm gonna grab these guys. And over here, I believe as well, I'm gonna scale these up a little bit. Because I want my animator eventually, which will be me, to be able to see this stuff. Down to get to my, grab those and make these bigger as well. So I just want to be able to make sure I can see what's going on inside with the control curves. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So let's see if this works. So I want to mirror my left side to my right side. Now this is my right side, so I want to mirror from right to left. So mirror right to left, and boom, yep, copies that over. That's really cool. So I'm going to do the same thing for these guys. Right, they're a little bit too small. They're buried inside the arm. I want my animator to be able to see that. So scale 1.1, start scaling these up until I can see. And these guys as well, kind of buried inside. And then this guy, this is what's called the hip swinger. So I'm actually going to move that way away. This and let's put it out front. Now generally you don't have to do this much kind of shifting and moving around of things because this is built for a, you know, for a biped character. A lot of the times this stuff just kind of comes in and plops in quite nicely. But because he's such a weird shape, we have to change our stuff around. So I've just switched my arms from FK to IK. So they're my IK controls, or my FK controls, sorry. I'm doing the same thing to those, start scaling those up. And then, so what I can see now is like, there's my little arm. So I'm gonna have to do something special for this little tube thing here, eventually. And this guy, I should probably scale him up a little bit as well. And, my neck, I should probably scale up. So that's most of his head, so I'm going to make that quite large. The other thing I'm going to do to this guy is, let's make this a square, or more square, because that's kind of like the shape of his head. So pull these in. Now let's take all of these guys and just got to scale them a little bit. Now notice when I'm doing this, I'm not changing anything over here. I'm not actually changing where these things transform pivots are. I'm changing the shape of the controller, but I'm not actually changing where the controller is sitting in space. Okay, then this is the look controller for the eye, which I don't think I'm ever going to really need, because that's kind of break. Actually, you know what? Maybe no, I'm going to get rid of that because that'll allow me to show you the next part, which is what am I doing on time? Ooh, almost an hour gone already, and I forgot to bring in water. The next part is going to be attributes. So what I want is, so these guys, this is automatically building these extra controllers in here, which I don't really need. Like, this is just all going to be one piece. And these extra controllers I can use, but I want to be able to control the kind of middle part of this. And that's where you can start to tag your fit skeleton, and that will make your build behave a little bit differently. And I also don't think I need as many of these spine joints. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to say toggle fit advanced. Actually, I'm going to save this first. I'm going to save, increment and save. So I'm going to say toggle fit advanced. So that's going to bring back my fit skeleton. And so let's look at the attributes. So close down control curves, close down display, and we'll look at edit. So edit means you're editing your fit skeleton. So I'm gonna go into edit, and so you can have labels. So here, so that's why this guy. So this guy has a label, and it says it has 2 twist joints and a bendy attribute. So I don't really need either of those attributes. So what I can do is I can select this guy and I can say just remove. So those things go away. Now this guy has twist joints of 2, so that's why it built those 2 joints. It has a bendy off, so I'm going to do a twist joints of 7. So it'll give me 7 joints along the length here, and I'm going to turn bendy on. So that will allow me to grab the middle of this and kind of make it like a tube. That's what I really like about the system, is like you can go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So same thing for these guys. I don't need bendy twisty, so I can remove that. I don't need bendy twisty on that, and I think that's okay. And for my spine, let's see. So this has in-between joints. So this in-between joint. So it has 2 here and it's 2 here. So it's gonna make 2 there and 2 there. I really don't need those either. Like the middle of his body generally I don't think is going to deform overall. Now if he was like a super cartoony character, he may be able to do that, but like I really don't think I need all those controls. So let's go and we'll say let's see, center between feet, in between joints. So attributes, in between. So I'll just remove that attribute. So I'll click remove, and that'll go away. And I'll click in between joints. I'll click remove there. That'll go away as well. Now for my neck here, I do want in between joints. So I'm gonna do another. I'm gonna do 4. I'll do 7, just like I did for the arm, and I'm gonna add a bendy. So like what I want is I want to be able to like grab the head and like lift it up and have like the neck be like all contorted and bendy. So I'm gonna add a bendy for that one. Bendy twisty. Add. So I got a error there. In between joints already exists. In between joint attribute already exists. Cannot mix twist and in between. Okay. So it looks like I can't mix. I can't have an untwister and an in between joints. So let's remove. Yeah. So let's remove. Let's see what happens if we remove in between. Like I said, I've never rigged a character like this before with this system, so it's a little bit of trial and error. So let's do bendy twisty, and we'll do add, and we'll do 7 here, and we'll do bendy twisty on. Cool. So let's build this again. Build advanced skeleton. Say go to bind, pose, proceed. So there, that's really cool. Like it kept all that work I did to move all those guys around. So you can go back and forth to an extent. All right, so let's see what this looks like. So if I grab my head and let's hopefully pull this out. Oh, that's my neck. Okay, that's the base of my head. So that's neck, and this is my head here. Yeah, there we go. So my head's gonna move around like that. And then what I can do now is I can take this and stretch it out, and I have like this little controller here in the middle. Control the neck, which is really, really cool. So there's the stiffness parameter. I can change that to make it more or less stiff. Yeah, so that works really well. The other great thing I love about this is I'm doing this testing. I don't actually have to put these things back because it's a enclosed system, right? This is a closed system. I can say go to build pose, and it'll just snap it back to where it was when it got built. And this is what I really love about rigging, man. It's like this is when you start to it's a puppet now. Like you can actually play around with it and do stuff to it. So same thing with these guys is I have like these little twisty joints or these little bendy joints here. So I can move those around. I can move. Yeah, these feel good. Okay. So what I want is do I have one at the bottom? Nope. Okay. So I'm gonna grab. Let's see. So this bendy, it's called bend, blah blah blah. Bend, blah blah blah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm going to select my name, and I will do bend star. So that will give me all my bendy stuff. So there might be some other bendy stuff, but I can just grab this, and so there are these kind of like bendy curves in there that I don't want, but I can bring all that stuff. I can grab all this. So that's working. So now I can go back to, where is it? I can go to control curves, and I can start to scale these up as well. So let's bring back this. And be able to scale these up until I can see them. Just making sure I can see all the things I need to see. Might scale these up a little bit as well. So because he is such, like, this is a circle, this is kind of what they call the pedestal, like this kind of moves everything around. I'm going to make this square as well. So I'll grab these guys and scale them in. Grab these guys, scale them in. So it kind of just makes it like his the same footprint as kind of like that big oblong head he's got. And I think I have a jaw control. Do I have a jaw control in here? Really want a jaw control. Ah, yeah, there it is. Buried way in there. Yeah, there's my jaw. Rah, 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 rah. Okay, so what I'll do, same thing as I've been doing before. I'll move its control vertices. Yeah, so this is going to be a little tricky to grab this and not grab anything else, but it takes a little bit of practice. There we go. Grab that and scale that up a little bit. I don't think I'll do the same thing to this guy, right? So I'll take my control vertex and I'll make this square because he's pretty square jawed. Cool. Awesome. So his jaw is pretty much only going to be able to do that. It doesn't really have a lot of leeway to rock back and forth. Okay. So what else? What else do I want to do? Probably bring out these eyes as well. So let's do. I'll press F8. Let's do both of that, and there we go. I just want to make it, like I said, I just want to make it relatively easy to get at these controls. And all my controls. Okay, go to build pose. And let's save this. File. Save scene. All right, now we will start to bind this thing. So since he's a robot, I can bind him kind of piecemeal. So what I'll do is I'll use my kind of separation here to do my binding. So I'll just do each one of these on their own. So all right. So the head, that's super simple. So that just gets bound to this joint. So I'm going to grab. Let me save this again. Increment save. So I'm going to take this guy and that guy. And I am binding. I could do this with constraints, but I want to send this. I possibly want to send this to Unreal. So I probably want to bind. I want to bind this to the joints. Now, actually, now that I think about that, now that I mention Unreal, there are some special options in here to make sure that your character will be able to go to Unreal properly. Oh, I also want to check my fingers to make sure they're going to rotate in the right direction. Yeah. Okay. Good. So actually, I think I want to change their orientation. Change the orientation. So I want to flip one of these guys over. Because when I curl this to 10, I want both of these guys to come in. So I don't have to do one to the negative, one to the other one. So I'll do that in a minute. But let's go down and let's see. Unreal joints. Or game engine. So there's game engine scale behavior. There's custom orientation for skeleton. Don't need that. Unreal joints. Root behavior. Root and IK joints, and Unreal twist joints hierarchy. So I don't really have any twist joints. Actually, I'm going to look into this because I am not super well versed, because I usually do my rigs for feature animation or television or movies. So this might be a little bit different. So I'll have to look this up. But the cool thing about this system is you can kind of keep working and you can come back to stuff and fix it later, which is really nice. So let's go back to my skinning, because yeah, skinning. So I'm gonna grab these two guys and my joint, this joint here, and I'm gonna say skin, bind skin, and in my settings, I just want selected joints. I want everything to be bound to that joint. So I'm gonna say apply. So now this guy should move along with. Yeah, so there's my brain moving along with my head. That one's super easy. This one as well, super easy. This is gonna get bound to that. Apply. Okay, so these two things should be moving together now. There we go. So hide those. Next one is the hands. Now the hands are going to be a little bit difficult, or a little bit different. So I want all of this. So this guy. How did I break these up? Oh, they're just all on their own. That's fine. So I want basically everything except for these two guys to be bound to this guy. We'll do the other thing, the same thing to the other claw. So if we look at this, there's my little claw action. So these guys are going to bind to that guy. So here, 2, 3. I don't need to bind. I generally don't need to bind anything to my end joints. So apply. So there's my little clamp action. So do the same thing over here. So this is, you can tell, like, this is a lot of, it's a lot of handwork. And that's just, you know, that's the way it is, right? Not everything can be super, super automated, right? So like anybody tells you that, like, oh, it's like, oh, the computer's doing all the work. It's not. There's always someone in there getting the job done. So control curves, I want to scale this up. Scale these up so I can see them. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move my right to left, so it's popped out. Okay, so now my whole hand should move. Awesome. Great, moving along. So that's my claws. Next, this is also very, very easy. Well, that should go with the head joint. Okay, so that's fun. That's starting to look like a puppet now. Go to build pose. So the leg is going to be a little tricky because, well, not really. So I just want this whole upper part, so this guy and this guy, to be to this. This part, so the foot is actually going to be the most interesting. So let's do the easy part first. So grab this and this, apply this, and this, and this, and this, and that, apply. Now, for this little sock, I want to, so if I lift the leg now, we should see cylinder turn just right. Yeah, nice. Woo! Awesome. This is where it starts to get fun, because this is where now it's like kind of like a puppet. Okay, so for this little sock, I want to bind between my knee, my foot, my ankle, and my toe, right? So this is going to hold this end, and this is going to hold that end. So 1, 2, 3, apply. So that's feeling pretty good. I might get in some weight painting later, but for now I'm just trying to get everything bound to the surface. All right. So this guy, so these parts are going to get bound to the heel and the toe. Oh yeah, that's working better than I could have ever expected. That's not too bad. So I got some shearing here, right? But I can take care of that later. Right now I'm just trying to get everything kind of bound. So I'm a real stickler for knee, so I did make sure his knee is mechanically sound. Arm, not so much, but the knee is definitely mechanically sound. Cool. So that's the foot, and I believe the next foot is going to be the other foot. Yep. So I'm just going to do the same thing. So here, here, apply. Here, here, here. Like that. Now remember, our sock was our knee, our ankle, and our toe. And our foot, all this guy here. That was our ankle and our toe. Just make sure I haven't missed anything. Good. Good. All right, cool. Moving along, I'm actually gonna save, increment and save. So I got almost the entire central piece finished with weighting. Not weighting, but attaching. All right, another interesting bit, right? So let's see how I split this up. Face. So all this is going to get, well, maybe not the eyes. Body. So our neck is going to be interesting. So let's do the parts that we know. So this guy is just going to get weighted to the jaw. So that's pretty simple. And actually, I might want to give some of this back to the head. So I'm going to do the head and the jaw. And then this is definitely just going to get weighted to the head. My eyes are, these guys are going to get weighted to the head as well. And then these, did I mirror these? Oh, I did mirror those. So these are going to get mirrored to, are going to get to the eyes. So this guy, eyes, eye, apply. So I'm not really going to need this rotation, right? Because they clip, maybe if he looks up or if he looks down. But I don't really get a lot of eye motion. What I could do, though, what is really nice, is I could scale these in like this, perhaps. Or I might need some extra controls to do that. And I could also slide them around. So I can get some posing out of them, a little bit. All right. So let's make sure that this works as well. Okay. So base is all done. So hide that. Body. So I know my neck is going to get bound to these guys here. So this is my chest. This is my chest. And so I want to bind it to chest, all my neck joints in here, and my head. So let's test. So this one I'm probably going to have to paint my weights a lot. Yeah, that's tearing real bad. But it's bound, which is really all I care about right now. Looks like some kind of crazy insect now. But I know it's moving with the with all the joints. Now, this is going to that's funny. Yeah, so that's gonna need a lot of work. So I'm gonna just make a little mental note of that. It's not gonna need a lot of work. It's just like the default skin weighting just can't handle something that looks this weird. The other thing I can do is actually, let me go back until I can try a different type of weighting. Let's see if that helps. So instead of closest distance, I can do geodesic voxel. And so what that'll do is it'll wrap what's called a voxel box around this and try to weight it that way. So we can see if that can give me a little boost. So let's see. This will take longer to calculate though. And let's push this up to 3 for my max influences. That's a little bit better. It's a wee bit better. But I'll go in, I'll show you some tricks on how to even this out and how to make it look real nice and smooth. So once again, as I always say, make it pretty, or no, make it work, and then make it pretty. Okay, so now I want to bind the rest of this stuff to my pelvis. Yeah, my pelvis, my spine, and my chest. So I won't be doing much of this, but this maybe should allow me to get a little bit of flexion in the body, just a little bit. Yeah, you get just a little bit of movement overall in the whole body. Yeah. Okay, so let's bring this back and bring my face back. So that should be about everything. So let's bring back, I'm going to bring back my legs just to make sure. This is kind of working together. Missing, there it is. So I was missing this main controller here. Keep growing this out. Yeah. Yeah, this is where it really starts to get fun, because it's like you can just adding just a little bit, like just making him squat down or like shift his weight a little bit, just adding a little bit, just just gives them a little bit of attitude, right? Like just adding a little bit of motion. Hello, Mr. Bohemian. It's good to see you. Good to see you guys. All right, cool. I should be able to finish up at least the initial weighting for this for the end of the stream. So let's look at where we're at. It's working really well. It's working pretty well. Yeah. No, this isn't the last day of Kortex, because I still need to show you how to get the textures out of Substance and do some nice production style renders. So probably like another week or two. So you still have another week or two with Mr. Chernobyl Bot. All right, so moving on. All right, complex stuff. All right, so this guy here. And actually, I want to turn on both these at the same time, both my arms at the same time, because I want to do this because they're probably the most complex part. So these two guys are definitely going to just be skin to the chest. Okay. These guys are just going to go to the clavicle. That's good. And then basically all of this whole kind of assembly here is going to go to this arm here. So that guy. Oh, maybe not my hose, but definitely my pistons. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to isolate this. Everything. Let's say isolate that, select all those, unisolate it, and apply. Bam. All right. That would be great. Like, whoa, what are you doing? Cool. Nice. So that's all working. So I got to do the same thing to the other side. Not the clavicle, this guy. The vents, pistons, and cables. So that's this and apply. So that should give me decent motion. Yeah, flexing those guns. Awesome. Okay, let's bring back everything else and see what that looks like so far. Yeah, that's looking really good. Clavicles are working. Shoulders should be working pretty well. Grab these guys. So he wants to reach kind of forward like that. Takes a little bit of doing, but he can get there. Believe I should be able to take these and yeah. Yeah, so those can cool, great. So back to bind pose. All right, so the last part is going to be the hoses, which so the hoses. So basically, the neck, these hoses, and the little sock thingies down here. I'm going to really have to do some weight painting on. So same thing for a hose. I want to grab this, my shoulder, because I want this to kind of grab this top part up here. And I'm going to bring it all the way down, everything down to my hand, because my hand is going to control most of that there. So So let's see what this gives us. How terribly ugly this. Oh, that's not too bad. Wow, I'm super impressed with that. That's really not terrible at all. That's really nice because you can do like a kind of like a knuckle dragging, like if he's sad, you can like drag his little tubes on the ground behind him. Yeah, that's really dope. I enjoy that a lot. I think that is almost everything. Yeah. Yeah. That went way faster than I thought it was going to. So he doesn't really have a lot of back and forth motion. He's got a lot of motion this way, but he can, like if he turns his head this way, then he can kind of look behind him if he needs to. And then as Status Active said that if he gets really mad, he can like go like this and be like look down like that. And then this can kind of come out. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice all around. Build pose. All right, let's save this. Increment and save. All right, so let's move on to some weight painting. So the main, like I said, the main things that I want to weight paint are these kind of bendy pieces here. Okay, so I'm gonna isolate them. Actually, yeah. Do I want to? How do I want to do this? I actually want to. I want to make a set out of these, just so I can get to them. So create sets, set, deform objects. So what a set allows you to do is I can get to those pieces really fast. So what I can do is I can hide my group. I can grab all my geometry. I can hide that, but then I can come back and I can unhide my deformed pieces. So a little trick. And then under my group, which is my rig, that's everything. So what this has done is it's built this group here. And under this group, so I have my main. So there's my geometry. So that's what where this Kortex is eventually going to go. I have my main. I have my motion system, and then under my deformation system. So this is the thing that makes this really special. It's just joints. There's really no controls or anything like that. So this, if you want to use this in a video game, so this is what's going to get sent out to your game engine, and everything else, this and your geometry is going to get sent out to your game engine, and all of my motion system, all this, right, all these kind of controllers and extra stuff, that all gets left behind because this is just for the animator. Also, if you're in a kind of like an animation pipeline, this will also get all these, all the animation will get baked down to these joints, and then these joints will get sent to the lighter or the simulation artist or whoever. Right, so you're stripping away all the information you don't need and sending it off to the next department. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with one that's the most broken, which is going to be my neck. So I'm just going to go and just stretch this out like that. And so let's start to paint this monstrosity. So what I'm going to do is, and actually I want to make my joints a little bit bigger. Display joint size, just so I can see them. And then, so what I'm going to do, let's see, do I want to, yeah. So I use two external plugins or scripts to help me with my weight painting. One is called BR Smooth Weights. So that's Brave Rabbit Smooth Weights. And the other is NG Skin Tools. So I'll show you what I'm gonna do with just the regular tools, and I'll show you how these two tools really help out. So if I go to Paint Skin Weights tool, and I look at this, so each one of these joints has sway over each one of these points. So the problem in general that most people have with Maya skin weights is, one, it's really buggy and it's really hard, and two, it's constantly trying to renormalize your weights. Now, what do I mean by renormalizing weights? When I say renormalizing weights, I mean all the influence on any point on a surface has to be pulled around by a number of joints. The influence that those number of joints has to add up to one. So if I have a joint over here and I have a joint over here and I have a point in the middle, if they have 50-50 pull on that point, if I move this one, it's always going to be in the center, right? If this one has like 75% and this one has 25%, it's going to be over here. The problem with this is as I'm painting, Maya's just constantly shuffling around these weights. And you can lead to crashes, it can lead to things not working right with your undo. So that's why a lot of people have written their own solutions to do skin weight paint. So the first thing I want to do with this is I just kind of want to average everything out. So I'm going to take my chest, and I actually want everything on the bottom of here to be weighted to my chest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say value, I'm going to say add, and select my chest, and we'll weight all that to my chest. So I'm just going to, we can see all this stuff start to turn white. So it's getting a little hard to paint on, so I'm just going to go back to my bottom pose. So the next thing, I'm just going to work my way up. So this is the neck. So I'm going to work my way up here. And this is probably like the worst thing to paint on. So the other thing is, so you can see my my cursor is going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth like that because it's trying to stay on the surface. So for something like this, you might want to use, instead of sticking to the surface, you might want to use screen projection. So now screen projection is a little weird sometimes. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So for whatever reason, when I turn on screen projection, I can't see my cursor anymore, which is very annoying. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just kind of blocking in large sections of the neck. And this is the tedium of rigging. I feel like this is why a lot of people don't like this, is because you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Maybe went a little bit too ham on the neck, on the joints on the neck. That's fine. That's fine. Now this is going to look real bad for a real long time, because this is a pretty complex piece of geometry. So let's kind of work our way around. And the great thing is if I decide, it's like, oh, you know, I tried making a cloth padded wall using in-cloth tools in Maya, but it's hard to get the wrinkles without adding dents to the rectangle. I don't agree with that, but yeah, sure. If you get it to work, awesome. Maya's cloth is not that great. I will say that. I will say that. The Maya's cloth is in cloth. It's okay. I know a lot of studios use it, but definitely things like Houdini, and definitely Houdini is really starting to kind of take the forefront. I just started using a tool called Carbon Cloth, which is absolutely fantastic. All right. 6. We'll leave 6 and 7 off, but what I really want, I need this to stick to the head. So this is still going to look garbage, but hopefully it'll be a wee bit more controlled, so I can start to show the next part here right before we run out of time. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and I'm going to smooth this stuff. So I'm just going to flood smooth this. So a few times on each one. Okay, so my chest goes all the way up to the top, which is fine. It's fine right now. All right, so let's grab this, see what we get now. So I should get bigger chunks. Yeah, so it's not as torn. So here's the next thing I do. Here's the next big kind of tool I use. So it's called BR Skin Weights. And so as you could see before, I had to go to each kind of weight and smooth that one. So I couldn't smooth multiple weights all at the same time. So that's where this thing called BR Skin Weights comes in, and it is fantastic. So I'm going to go to Skin, and I've already got it installed. So BR Smooth Weights tool. And I'm double click on this, and it looks a lot like the Maya tool. But so now if I have my size, I have my strength. Yeah, so let's just put this at, so left mouse button, drag to smooth. So I'm just going to start to smooth this out. Like, this is an absolute godsend. Like, look at this. Boom. So fast. Just kind of chills everything out very, very nicely, very quickly. And you could use it in conjunction with your regular skinning tools, which is really nice. I can also, if I want to just do, I can just start flooding this to smooth it down. So like kind of like everything's getting like an even share at this point. Now, this is being pulled down, but I can always go back in and repaint repaint my kind of like anchors. But like this would take me so long to do without this tool. Like look at that. That's almost perfect already. So now what I can do is I can reattach kind of like my neck and the chest. So I'll do that. I'll go back to my paint skin weights tools. So I'll go to my head. And here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to say select. And I'm going to select this top row. So get this. Okay. I'm going to expand this out a little bit. Maybe to like this first kind of eddy here. And I'm going to go to my head. And I'll just take this little slider and I'll just pull that all the way up. Okay. So now I want that to stay locked. So what I'll do is I'll grow this a little bit. And then I'll shrink it a little bit. And I'll grow it again and shrink it again. So what this will allow me to do is I can now smooth just those points. So if I go back to paint and I go to smooth, I can now kind of bring those up. And so I can think. Let's look at what this is doing. So let's bring back the rest of the body. Display, show all. Yeah, so this is pulling up from the chest a little bit too much. So I want to do the same thing. So I'm going to say paint skin weights. And go to select. And grab these edges. Grow that out a little bit. And go to my chest. And just pull that up. And you can see all that stuff squidge down. So I'll do the same thing here. And actually what I can do as well, so I'm going to go to this one. Do that loop. I'm going to grow that. I'm pressing shift and period. Just till it gets to there. And I'm actually going to use my BR skin weights. Skin, BR smooth skins, double click. And I'm just going to flood those pieces so they smooth out. And voila, Bob's your uncle. There you go. See how this deforms? Yeah, that's really nice. So now we can definitely do what we were talking about before. We can take this. We can take this. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So if he needs to, like, you know, look up over something, he can be like, whoop. That's really cool. I like it. I like where this is going. Okay, go to build post. All right, so that's pretty much it. So that's what I'll do for, let's see. Let's do the same thing. Let's grab these guys. So the last thing I'll show you is mirroring. So I don't want to paint, because these two guys are separate, I don't want to paint them separately. So let's go and grab this guy and this guy, and I'll turn on my FK. Where are my leg FKs? Ooh, my leg FKs are really small, so I'm going to have to make those big as well. So let's do that real quick. actually, I'll do this. I'll say show none. Show NURBS curves. There we go. Grab you, and grab you. And scale those up. So scale. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll do these real quick, these guys. So I'm gonna rotate that down. Pivots. And I'm gonna do the same thing. So for this is because this is so close, I'm just gonna go ahead and straight up just use the BR skin weights. Just push that down. And then for this back part, I want that to rotate almost all exclusively with this guy, with that heel. So select influence. That's my ankle. Say add, and I'm just gonna add that in there. Right, and I'll just kind of smooth everything a few times. Cool. So now what I can do is I can transfer my weights from one of these to the other. So I can do that down. So I should do its source, destination, skin, mirror skin weights. Now, when you have two pieces of geometry that aren't connected, you have to turn off directionality. So I want to mirror in YZ, and I think the default should work. Yep. There we go. Just click a couple times, and you're all good. There we go. So I could go in, and I could also go in and just do a little bit of, just a teensy little bit of cleanup on this. So skin, smooth. Just kind of tap that, level it out just a little bit. And just do the same thing for this guy real quick. This. Just flood this a few times. That's pretty good. And then I will take and do the same thing as I did before. So I'll take this edge. Actually, I'll get skin weights. Select influence. I'll go to my select. Grab this edge. It's not letting me grab that edge. Sometimes the selection is a little bit finicky. So I'll do this. I'll grab the actual edge, and I'll convert that to polygons by pressing Control F9. And I'll grow this a bit, maybe just that first ridge. my wrist, and then go pull all that down. The other tool that we could use is called the weight hammer. So what I can do with this now is I can say, okay, let's go to these edges. I'll say this edge and this edge. Let's grow that out. And I can say skin, weight hammer. And so that'll try to average everything. Hammer skin weights. So I'll do the same thing up here. So grab this edge and this guy. Pull that all the way up. We'll do the same thing here. And we can do skin, hammer skin weights. Cool. And so there's our arm, our little arm tubey thingy. So I don't think I would go as far as to stretch his arm that far, but you know, he's got some little, he's got a fair bit of, for being so weirdly designed, he has a fair bit of motion. So that's pretty cool. And so now I can get back to, I can almost get back to that pose that he was in before. So I can grab this, I can rotate that in a little bit, pull that over, and then, so now I'm pretty much, more or less back to his concept pose. Like that. Cool. And that's it, man. That is, whoo, that was a lot. That was a lot. But I can't believe, man, an entire character rigged in 2 hours flat. So if I can do it, you can do it. I swear to God. So yeah, it's looking really, really well. So next week, I will, between the streams, I'll clean this guy up, get him ready for export or rendering in Maya, whichever one. I'll show you how to export your sweet textures out of Substance here and get them all put together, and we'll do some final production renders, and then that'll be it. So it'll be it for Kortex Bot for next week, and then after that we'll move on to something. Probably, I'm thinking, I've been doing a robot for a really long time. I think I'm going to do something organic next, something maybe challenging, something with maybe feathers and cloth. Something I've been wanting to do on the stream for quite a long time. I started the stream with cloth, then I moved to mechanics, so I'm going to move back to organics in 2 weeks' time. So thank you so much for joining me. It's been a good time. Thanks for all the interaction, and remember, cgspectrum.com/3D-modeling for all your modeling needs. I'm Bryan Bentley. You guys are awesome. Have a good night. See you later. Oh yeah, wash your hands.